Hey, everyone. This is HFPod Live. This is RJ. I'm gonna introduce everyone on here based on what it says on their screen. So first, our special guest, Uncle Jesse Lauter. Hi, Jesse.
Hi, guys.
Unky. I like it.
I figured that's better than Uncle. It's more special. Matt is here. Hi, Matt.
Howdy. How's it going?
This is HFPod Live. Awesome. And broke down podcast for life.
Hi, I'm Jonathan. I'm just a fan of some other podcast also.
Yeah, never heard of it.
And Brad from Arizona.
And Brad. There
Brad.
he is.
What's up, guys? How you guys doing?
What's up?
What's going on with you is what I want to know. Why do you look like you just robbed a bank?
Yeah.
This is my it's a mask by day, and by night it's a bandana. I mean, it's multifunctional.
I feel like you just learned how to play Born to Run on a Telecaster.
I was going to say it's a little Springsteen cosplay.
Yeah.
No, it is. I actually just got to New Jersey this afternoon, and so I was inspired to do it up. So thank you for noticing. And for people watching at home, you'll see that once again I'm the only non-bearded person, including Unky Jesse.
Even a guest.
Sad. Jesse,
what are you drinking,
how you
RJ?
doing, man? What am I drinking?
Mm-hmm.
I'm drinking an Ezrin as usual. What about you, Brad?
Oh, nice. Oh, thanks for asking. I'm having a Tower Station from the great state of Arizona.
That's good stuff.
Mother Road Brewing, yes.
Jonathan?
I have this thing called beer. I don't remember what it was, but it was an IPA in a can, and
Weird.
I put it in a glass, and it's good.
Weird. Matt?
I am drinking a polar seltzer.
Okay.
Keeping it real tonight.
Very professional.
Jesse? I know what you're drinking, Jesse. Coffee?
Coffee.
Wow.
Jesse, let's talk to you first. You are a friend of the Osiris family. And actually, I would say that you're part of the Osiris family because you've done a lot of stuff with us, including editing Jesse Jarnow's podcast and contributing a bunch of ideas and collaborating on it with us on stuff. And you are tell people a little bit about what you do and your background so people know who you are who don't know already.
Sure. My background's in record production. I have been making albums or working on recorded music since I was in my teens. Basically began professionally in college. Worked with the school of different artists, and I've also sort of I don't need to reel off my credits, but if you want to learn more about me, you can just go to my website. It's my name, jesselauter.com. I also dabble now in music films. One of the bands I will mention that I work with regularly is the Tedeschi Trucks Band. I directed their last concert film with my buddy Grant James, who I believe is tuning in right now because he loves it. And I've been working on another project with them for a long time, and I also do I also do their archival releases now through Nugs. So I got to wear both my hats with Tedeschi Trucks. I do film for them and audio. And then I've also very, very part-time, but and I guess it's why I'm the uncle or the unky. I DJ as well, and I was talking to Matt before. I was DJing in Mexico for a couple nights for the Phish run, and and I've been doing it now in this quarantine state of affairs every Saturday with Osiris presenting it. So it's been a really powerful and necessary experience for me to throw down some funk and disco and soul jams to liven up people's Saturday afternoons and early evenings. And this past Saturday was amazing. I mean, we're young, everyone from babies to grandmas are showing up, and I'm basically just playing heavy duty Soul Train jams, dabble in the 80s, and it's a good time. So we could plug it again later, but it's
awesome.
Yeah. Saturday 6 to 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
We're gonna keep it going.
So good. I was trying to tell my kids that it was like Soul Train, but I actually never experienced Soul Train. So it's like me trying to explain to them, you know what I mean? That I think this is what Soul Train was like.
I want to say, Jesse, real quick, that the first Saturday, there were so many people, and I was seeing people I knew and people I didn't know, and it was a great turnout. And then suddenly I saw someone holding a sign that said, "Jesse's mom." She was like, "I just want you to know that I'm here."
I didn't know she was showing up. I was like,
So great.
That was a special surprise.
It was pretty sweet, pretty awesome.
Most people who are lucky enough to have their mother still around, I haven't been able to see my mom for the past month, even though we live in the same city. So that was a nice way for us to connect. So
yeah. So we're going to talk about Sigma Oasis, of course. I don't know, Matt, should we go track by track, or should we start with like overall thoughts? Do you have a thought about how to do that?
Yeah, let's just start talking about overall thoughts. I know Tom and the Mikes last week did a live stream thing where they did sort of track by track. So maybe we can just talk about our overall impressions of the album, how it's making us feel, and how many times per day we're listening to it, which is probably a pretty good place to start. I tweeted yesterday, I think I have a daily ritual, although we didn't do it tonight, of like around 5:30, 6 o'clock, I fire up the grill, I crack open a beer or a White Claw and throw Sigma Oasis on, and the whole family listens to it. My daughter's getting into it big time, and I mean, I'm just loving it, man. At least once a day I'm spinning the full record. It's so great.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just getting relocated in this house tonight, and my wife was like, "Can we make the Sonos work so we can play Sigma Oasis?" And that was like all you really need to know. Like when it's being requested often. Jonathan, are you playing it often?
As often as I can. It seems like there's a lot of other stuff coming my way. It's been a hell of a time for music, actually. Everybody's bottled up and just pushing out content left and right. But definitely in enveloping myself in this music as much as I can, and I'm loving it.
Brad, is it what's it doing in Arizona? Is it making its way? Is it making its way through the beautiful spring weather there?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Probably a good backdrop for that.
It is, and it's a wonderful album to have it on in the morning or in the evening. You know what I mean? Either or, and we catch ourselves listening to it both times. I really like the keys, like a lot of page focus for us that everybody's kind of noticing. My daughters are in piano lessons, which now take place via an iPhone, but they've been paying attention to that too. So wonderful, man, wonderful.
And Jesse, given that you've made albums and helped make albums, what's your take? I have a lot of follow-up questions to what's your take, but what's your take on this album so far? What's your first take?
You got a lot of takes, man. Yeah, let's get deep, because I don't know, this is sort of an existential record for me right now. I think that going back to the release party last week, what was so magical about that, and I had a couple Zooms going with my friends that sort of haphazardly came together, and to be able to connect with people over a studio record, that doesn't happen anymore. And how special is that, right? And to me, I think probably the thing that people aren't going to say, but I'm going to say it, is like, thank you to like Phish Incorporated and to everyone at Red Light Management, and obviously the band and the engineer, Vance Powell, the producer, for rushing this thing, because obviously it's not the same sort of service as like a healthcare worker, but this is a service for people and for thousands of people. And it's just a reminder of how unbelievably hardworking this band is, to do something so generous in this time when all anyone needs right now is just some kindness, love, and affection, right? And I mean, I loved it when they announced it too. And in the middle of the set break, I wasn't watching the show, but then everyone was like, they're announcing something at set break. And I was like, okay, I'll pop it on. And then I watched the announcement. And I was like, that's so cool. And then everyone was like, oh, April Fools. And I was like, do you think they're that mean? Like, do you really think they're that mean? No.
No way.
Right? And they knew that, though, that they were like, yeah, we'll do it on April 1st. We'll do it on April Fool's Day to, get people talking about it. But
roll in the trolls.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Same thing as stuckers and not stuckers, right? Like, come on, do you think they're that mean to like make people think that Trey might die on New Year's Eve? Like, great way to spend New Year's, guys. Like, no. But no, like I mean, Patrick, Jason, Julia, Beth, everyone who probably I know that they were probably dealing with their own life crises too, and Vance, trying to figure out how we're going to manage through this quarantine. And they rushed the album release and they gave us a gift, and forever grateful for them for it. And on top of it, from an engineering and production standpoint, I mean, this is definitely their best sounding record since Ghost, even though I love how Farmhouse sounds and how Undermine sounds. And it's just like it continues their tradition of finding and working with the best producers and engineers. Vance Powell is a monster engineer. Loved him for years. I think I first got hip to Vance with that Rack on Tours Consolers of the Lonely album. And I've always been a big fan. I mean, he's sort of like, I go to Audio Engineer Society conventions, and whenever he's around, people always like stop in the convention center, like, oh, Vance Powell, and he's a great fit for the band. I mean, I won't take up more room, but we could talk about this. Like, to me, what's so special about the record is that it's a barn record, so it's like the first barn record since Undermined. It's a very natural sounding album. It's not overly compressed like these past few records have been. I mean, Bob Ezrin's a legend, Steve Lillywhite's a legend too, but those records don't breathe at all. They're just like very overproduced. You hear the auto-tune, and they're hard records for me to listen to. I really, I put them on, like Fuego I got into a little bit, but this record, start to finish, sounds beautiful. It is a schooling in engineering. I subscribe to Qobuz. Do you guys know about Qobuz?
Yeah, I do too.
It's up now. It wasn't on Friday or Thursday when they actually released it. Qobuz is hi-fi streaming, so you can listen to the album at $24.96. And on my system, which you guys can't see, and I'm not going to turn around my camera, it's just freaking awesome. It sounds so good. So they crushed it with this, and happy to get into some production specifics with you.
I think they were doing everybody. Sorry, I think they were doing everybody at like a mental health service in releasing this now. And also there was a great bit of community, not building, but just connection, getting everybody together on Wednesday last week to listen to the record live. Twitter was just, lit up, and everybody was just so excited. And the fact that it delivers on top of all that, I mean, any Phish album dropped right now would have been welcome, but this Phish album is just, I second everything you said. I mean, it sounds great. It plays beautifully. The Page's keys sound amazing. The work he did after the fact, just layering and layering and layering, putting more stuff in. It's just, it's so thick to delve into.
Like on Christmas, like when each of the songs would pop up, and it was like things that were familiar, and I was like, Mercury, yay! Steve, holy shit! I thought they wrote that song 10 years ago, yay! And it sounded awesome. Yeah, like you said, it delivers. I mean, like they're just so great.
I was a little not jaded. I like Big Boat. I like Fuego. I listened to them, but I wasn't expecting what we got. You know what I mean? Maybe under expecting, or when it delivered, it took me a second, and then a re-listen. I was like, holy shit, this is really good. You know what I mean? Then it really set in, because the initial listening party out here in the West, we were eating dinner and everybody's listening to it. And, well, this is really good. Nice music. And then I went back and listened to it that night. Wow. You know what I mean? And that's when the production really set in for me. I also listened on my TV for the first round, but with the cans in the second time, way better than Big Boat, way better. I like Big Boat. I like Fuego. Woo.
You don't have to defend Big Boat or Fuego if you don't want to.
I will. I fucking will, though. That's the thing.
Oh, go ahead. I'll join you. They're fine, but yeah, we've taken it up a notch.
They're fine. They're not like, there's something about, I mean, to me, like a record, like what was cool was hearing the whole backstory, because they needed to have some backstory in the publicity of this thing, and it was done in a very simplistic fashion, basic tracks, a matter of days. at the barn, no isolation, no baffling, a lot of bleed, even though you can't tell. It sounds fucking amazing. And, it's like the Neil Young thing, like I need bleed, that's how you make great records, right? And and then they just did some overdubs, vocal overdubs, and the string overdubs, and the synth overdubs, and that's how a record should be done. And whereas Fuego and Big Boat both sounded like they just put way too much time and thought into it, and I mean, Bob Ezrin is a legend. I just don't think he was the right fit for the band. Probably my least favorite producer they've ever worked with, and delivering those two records. And I'm, and no, not harping on him because he's a, great producer engineer, and I have a lot of friends who've worked with him and love working with him. But I think Vance Powell is like a totally new like dimension for them, and I really, really hope they keep working with him.
I think he got the band a lot more than Bob Ezrin ever did. Yes. Bob Ezrin is a legend. He's absolutely amazing. And, as a huge Bob Ezrin fan and a Pink Floyd fan, I was thinking in 2014, oh my God, the guy who produced The Wall is going to produce Phish. But in retrospect, it's kind of like, do you want the guy that produced The Wall to produce a Phish record? That's not Phish. And there's little subtleties that Vance, I think, got, like, the low end on this record is unbelievable. There's a couple notes like towards the beginning of Everything's Right that Mike hits that I've never heard like that on a Phish record, where it just shakes your entire room the way that when he plays those notes at Madison Square Garden, it shakes the entire room. So I think he got some of that stuff. But the other thing is that, like, those records like Big Boat and Fuego, they're very, very dense records, a lot of overdubs, a lot of stuff added to them. It's not exactly a sparse record. There's a lot of that stuff. Like there's choirs and there's strings and there's synth overdubs, but he did such a great job of creating space for all of that in the mix and not making it sound too crowded and making it sound very, very natural to what Phish does. And Jesse, you were even saying, like, even some of the, like, the vocals, which are a little tuned and stuff, it's not like harsh and in your face. It just feels very, very natural. I
mean, if there's auto-tune on this record, I can't hear it. And I think actually, if I don't want to harp on this record, if I was to complain about one thing, is that I think Trey went a little too showy on a very few specific, like, vocal moments. And there are moments where I'm like, I kind of laugh a little bit. I'm like, ha, that's funny.
He went for it for sure. He went for it.
Totally.
We all know it's that everything's right note. Come on.
Yeah. It's gonna be all right. Yeah. It's like kind of South Parky, but
it's funny, but I love it still.
Yeah, right. And maybe it'll grow on me. And to second you, Matt, on that, I think a low end is unbelievably round, smooth. But the thing that I love is, like, I can feel it breathe. Like there's this air that exists in the high highs, like that's just so open but smooth. So like maybe it hit tape. I don't know. I just think it's a kind of a masterful, a masterful engineered record. And this is a guy who's won Grammys for engineering. I
think one of the things that
no, go ahead.
I noticed was Ezrin wouldn't let him go type 2. You know what I mean? And it was multiple songs of them stretching it and the producer letting him go there, which is one of the things that makes it great.
I'm glad you brought this up, Brad, because I was wondering when we were going to get around to this detail that they actually jam on the record. But I would argue that this isn't a case of Vance letting them go there. It's a case of knowing that that's what Phish should do and not stopping them, not preventing them from being themselves.
Yeah.
And one last, I don't know if it's a shot, one last bit about Ezrin is that the sterility of those records versus this record, which I think is what Jesse, you were talking about as well, is really notable and
you could
welcome here.
You could hear auto-tune all over the place on the previous two albums, and maybe even on Joy too. I don't think Lily White did a great job with it, and Billy Breathes, I think, is their best studio record. I don't think there's really ever going to be any topping that. But this does get close. I'll say this, going to the jam thing. What I was thinking of, Thread being that last track that everyone's so excited about, and has been one of my. I've been calling that song for this past year when I would see. I'm like, I want to hear Thread. And my friends are like, why? It's like, no, it's great. It's going to be great. And now it's the one that everyone's talking about. You know what it reminded me of was Demand, which is the last track on Voice if you don't count Jerusalem Shall Zahav.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that the jam on Demand is actually a live recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
From 93, from 4/21/93, the Newport, Columbus, Ohio show, which is incredible.
That is,
but it feels like that.
Yeah, it does.
It feels like that.
It feels like Melt. I mean, it feels like
Yeah.
In fact, it feels kind of like the weirdest versions of Melt that we've had lately, because some of those have been really off the rails strange in the past year, 2 years, and here we have it on a record.
So I actually think I had the same thought while I was listening to the first. It was a lot like that Melt jam at the end of the record. But the other thing that I picked up on, and our friend Dave Goldstein from Beyond the Pond said the same thing. That whole section to me sounds like the end of the song Supper's Ready by Genesis. There's a section of that song called Apocalypse in 9/8 that has that same sort of driving, stabbing, odd time signature thing. I know Tom and Trey were very heavily influenced by early Genesis back in the day, and it kind of brought back that same sort of feeling. So if you're not familiar with that track, check out Supper's Ready. I mean, it's like one of the best songs ever anyway.
I caught one as well at the Everything's Right jam. It's not like really like a tease or but it does sound a lot like the piano tone that when Page goes from one of the Crazy Synth things to just like his Baby Grand and the high mid bump on the piano sounds exactly like Winwood, and it totally reminds me of the Well All Right jam from the Blind Faith record. So if you put those side by side, and they're definitely in line. Yeah,
it's a pretty good reference, and I'm sure Paige would be pleased.
So guys, when you said, Jesse, that it was rushed, which it clearly was in terms of time, was there any like trade-offs to you guys who are more informed than I am in terms of anything? I mean, it sounds like you guys haven't found anything that maybe got like traded off, but it seems like if you're rushing something, you got to leave something out, right? Most of the time.
One thing, this is a thing I like to throw at people. This is a fact that blew me away that I learned I don't know. I was going deep into Dylan some years ago. I was producing a Dylan tribute album, and I learned that Bob Dylan's first 10 or 11 studio records were cut in a matter of 50 days total. All right, so think about that. Like 11 of the greatest records of all time, from Bob Dylan to I think Blood on the Tracks. 50 days, that was it. That was all the time spent in the studio. So to me, rushing, just do it, just go. Like, try to get these things out quickly. Don't spend too much time on it, And I think that they were given this limit, and they gave themselves this limit and this restraint, and they went for it. And, they delivered something beautiful for us that we're discussing now. And I think it's like, bands teeter on records for days. If you don't give them limits, they're just going to spend forever on these things. And I think it was cool that they, got it out quickly. So sorry if I'm cutting anyone off, but I mean, I know that there's some songs that didn't make the record. You could see in the photo montage that looked like a bar mitzvah montage that they played, that I saw that Set Your Soul Free and some other songs on a song list. But
I'm not missing any songs. I mean, if there are other songs that they finished that they could release some other time, that's fine. I think the record feels complete. I would say to your Bob Dylan thing, even more notable is that, most of the time when he was playing with the band didn't know the songs before Bob Dylan showed up. He might have showed them to Al Cooper or whatever for the last couple in that run that you're talking about. But, the players didn't know what they were getting into that day. The one thing that hurrying this release out now really sacrifices is the fact that I don't have it on LP yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a problem for anyone who releases an album right now, because all the plans are down.
Yeah.
Also, there's also a lot of issues before the coronavirus. I don't know if you guys heard about the fire at United.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Was it Rainbow? I forget. So who knows when it's going to come out on vinyl. But yes, I greatly look forward to that day as well, sir.
Yeah.
Matt, what about you? Do you think anything for you?
I don't think so. I mean, because once again, I think it's the best sounding record they've made, definitely since the 90s. Way better than anything I could have expected. So, yeah, I mean, maybe it was rushed in terms of like the actual, like, just go to market, like the album cycle, they like to call it these days, in terms of like press and aligning it with the tour and all that kind of
And
stuff.
not going on famous Phish podcasts, for example.
Not going on famous Phish podcasts as a guest. But I mean, nothing about it feels complete. I wonder if Vance was planning on mixing it now and suddenly he was like, oh, well, I'm stuck at my studio and I've got this project to complete, so I can just bury my head and get it done. But it seems like they've been working. I mean, they have to have been working for a while to get all those voices on it, to get the strings. Don Hart had to have time to do all the arrangements and everything. So I think it's something that they've been working on, pretty continuously.
And Jonathan, I know that I think you sent the screenshot that it was like #1 in Apple Music in the charts last week, right?
Yes. So they dropped it on Wednesday, and I guess it was Thursday that it was #1 on the charts. But it's kind of a cheat because all the other records that week came out on Friday. So,
well, whatever, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Brad, what do you think about the sequencing of the tracks? Like, do you like the way the flow goes? Would you have changed anything? Like, do you like the ordering of the songs?
Yes, I think my only complaint would be I don't know. There's 4 ballads out of 9, maybe.
And that's ballads.
I'm not complaining about the ballads. I'm just saying that maybe that's and that in itself lends to probably a difficult sequencing. I think the best part for me was the Everything's Right into the Mercury is like flawless to me.
That's good.
The end of that, and it's a long Everything's Right in the beginning of the Mercury. I think that could be a second set, at any show in 3.0. So I thought that was great. But no, I don't, I mentioned it before, but the Leaves and I think the Leaves and the Shade both start out with page only, I think on just on the Baby Grand, and you can put those anywhere for me. You know what I mean? It's wonderful. And honestly, and obviously I think we've talked about it, but the thread at the end is the best. That's the place it deserves to go. And that jam at the end is so perfect.
So one thing I noticed, I texted Matt about this, and I don't know if you guys agree with this, but I felt like the end of Leaves and the beginning of Everything's Right was like such a huge contrast. Like, this is like my 12th time listening through in my headphones, and it just felt like it was so delicate and quiet. And then like Everything's Right was so like, I want to say muddy, but like in a good way. It was so like perfectly muddy that the contrast kind of threw me off when I was listening to it in my headphones. I don't know if that struck anyone else or if that felt more seamless than the way it made me feel.
The term I like to use for that is swampy. It's a little bit swampy, that groove. Works.
So I'll tell you what I told you, RJ, in response to that text, and I obviously have no like direct knowledge about what was going on with the mixing process or anything. I think a lot of the songs, actually each of the songs on the album, does have like a distinct kind of sonic fingerprint. But if you were to ask like why, other than an artistic choice, it could be, there's a lot of different reasons. I mean, it could be, once again, they're recording in the barn without any isolation and stuff like that. So it's like, depending on how one instrument bleeds into a different mic or something like that, you might have to EQ the drums just a little bit different on each track. So it might kind of deceive your ears a little bit. But I didn't hear anything that was like too drastically different. And I think that it does, one thing that I will add to what you were saying is that I forgot to mention before, one of the things that Vance Powell got, I think, probably from seeing Phish live, is the flow of the show. And this album has flow. Like, all of the songs are mixed right into another. There's really no like dead air or anything on it. And I think he probably was going for like, let's create a Phish set on record that has like a really good flow and keeps going from start to finish.
Jesse has brought in some experts.
It's good to have friends.
Jesse, what do you think about that? Like, do you feel any contrast between the songs, or do you feel like it all flows pretty well?
I think the flow is excellent. I have literally no complaints. Let the coronavirus and allow Phish heads to appreciate songs like Shade and Leaves. It's funny, those are the ones I'm going to right now. I've always had I've had a soft spot for Life Beyond a Dream since Susan sang it at Lock-In, and even though I don't think it could really top that, kind of like how it doesn't really top Bobby singing "Miss You" in Nashville. I think they did a wonderful job with the production of that. It's the ballads are amazing. You could kind of put anything anywhere. I think maybe "Evening Song" could have been the first song on the record. Didn't have to be the title track.
Yeah.
You know, who cares? It is what it is. It's a beautiful piece, and the flow is awesome. They could have ended the record on "Life Beyond a Dream," and I think the thread ending is sort of like a nod to the fans who are like, oh, like make Phish evil again. Yeah, definitely. That's evil. That shit is as dark as Phish gets on record.
So, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I was just going to ask you a question. So, do you guys have a favorite song on the record? Brad? Since you just took
Oh, you're asking me?
Yeah, do you have a favorite song on the record?
Yes, I think I'm going to go for the low-hanging fruit. I think after the 5-minute mark, which, by the way, I'll throw a shout out to our friend Andy. That's his favorite part of the record, is like after that 5, maybe 6-minute mark of everything's right. It's a great little jam that ends, or it's 5 or so, 6 minutes long. I really like that. But the thread ending as well really set the dinner for me. We finished our dinner around that time, and I was like, wow, this is dirty, and our table's dirty, and the plates are dirty, and it was a great ending.
Jonathan, how about you?
I'm going to be the guy who says shade. I love it. I absolutely love that song. I love the way it was done on the record. I mean, I love them all, honestly, but that song's always worked for me, and this version is especially beautiful.
Jesse,
Leaves is a close second to that.
Yeah.
What's my favorite?
Yeah.
I'll say right now, I'll probably change tomorrow, "Life Beyond a Dream."
Okay. RJ, how about you?
I mean, they all deserve to be number one. No, the title track for sure. I mean, to me, it's like when we heard it in Mexico on the beach, which actually feels like an entirely different lifetime. It I heard some things that I had never heard before, and I just think it's like I think it's a great song. I'm really glad that it's the title track. I agree that like a cold open of Evening Song maybe could have like eased you into the album better, but I love the song. I love the treatment on the album. I think it's fucking awesome. What about you, Matt?
So I asked the question so that we could talk about Leaves. Leaves is not only my favorite track on the record, I think it's one of the greatest things they've ever put on record. And it's one of these cases where like I could see a lot of people not necessarily digging that song live because Phish fans tend to be very intolerant of ballads, but it's so beautiful.
Idiots.
The production is amazing. The string arrangements are incredible. I have a theory that I put out the other night as a tweet very, very late at night. So nobody liked it or commented or anything. So either it's way too late for anybody to care, or that my idea is like so horrible that people didn't want to even interact with me on it.
I saw it, Matt.
I think if you take,
but you didn't come.
Yeah, I think if you take 2 minutes out of Leaves from the instrumental sections and put it out as a radio edit, I think it's a hit on like NPR college kind of stations. Maybe even gets nominated for like a best alt rock Grammy. I think it's that
good. I agree with you.
Yeah, Leaves is my number 2 for sure. It's beautiful, and I think we should take a minute to recognize our friend Amar, who played a beautiful solo acoustic guitar arrangement that he put out on his social media, and got a lovely note from Trey complimenting him on his arrangement and his guitar tone. And the guy's great and worthy of such accolade. And his version is really beautiful.
Really awesome. I think Trey should send him one of those notes every time he arranges one of those songs for acoustic guitar, because it's always amazing. So hopefully he'll get a weekly summary.
Trey should send him one of his like 1930s, 40s acoustics that he talks about that, have finally come to terms with being a guitar. I mean, you guys heard this, like his whole, like, he thinks it takes a while for the wood to go from a tree to an acoustic. And I think Amar,
hippies.
Amar could take one of those and just dominate.
Amar's amazing. All right, so Sigma Oasis, we all love it. I think it's I guess the last question, but we can get into the next topic because we probably should. But would we have had the same reaction in like normal life, or like is our perception skewed because we can't see anyone or listen to new music, or would this have been amazing if it was regular times and we were all, running around and I was getting my coffee from Starbucks and all that?
There's no way in my mind that this record would be received by me any differently. I don't know about the rest of y'all. I don't know about all these other people out there. But to me, this record it's great. And I like objectively, which is bullshit because of course it's a subjective opinion I'm giving you, but it's objectively great in my opinion. No, it's outstanding. And I can't imagine not liking it.
Two
Jesse?
things. Oh, sorry. Let me drop my two quick ones in. First, you can't deny the fact that all of us listening together last week impacted our take with it.
But wouldn't we have been doing that anyways if
Jonathan,
Phish said, "Oh, you can hear the record"?
You already had a chance to talk. And then secondly,
But if your points are bad,
save it for the podcast.
Second, I really liked. I think Diana with two N's, tweeted the video of Phish talking with his friends about it right before, like on the Tuesday afternoon or whatever it was. And that build up to me also added to it. And I don't think that would have been there. There wouldn't have been that build up without what's going on.
Yeah, I think I'm similar to Jonathan. I would have felt the same way, maybe a little bit more impact, but I think that there's a lot of other people who were kind of had their nerves raw and ready to receive a more emotional record like this. But I also do think, I don't know that they would have released it like this had, everything been right in the world. And so we wouldn't have had that communal experience. And like, I can't remember a time since maybe like when Kid A came out where it was like the whole world like heard an album at the same time and freaked out about it, or at least the Phish community.
Which is the whole world, right?
What do you think, Jesse?
That's what matters, yeah.
Jesse, you said earlier that it was what we needed right now, but do you think like in any situation it would have been well received?
Everyone's saying here, I mean, it definitely is. It's forced people to sit down and pay attention to the record, if there's the silver lining and this whole experience is, being able to pay attention to art and sound, in this period, it's it's a pretty, it's a special thing. It's a special period that we're in right now. We're all going to think back on this point in our lives, and we'll tell our children about this and our grandchildren if we have children and grandchildren, or if you guys, I know some of you guys have kids. And you'll remember this record as being the soundtrack of it. And that is the power of music. That's the power of studio music and studio recordings. I think it's like I was saying, like it would take the coronavirus for us to, for me to appreciate, songs like Shade and Leaves, but it's taken the coronavirus for people to appreciate Studio Phish, which is, for me, I love Studio Phish, and I know you too. And they took advantage of the opportunity for a positive cause, and I'm so glad that they did. And thank you to them, and thank you to their whole team, and to Vance. And I don't know who mastered the record, but mastering sounds super clean. It's just what a treat, what a gift. And yeah, we'll hold a special place in all of our hearts. And when we get it on vinyl, we'll hold up that vinyl, and Jonathan, and we'll be proud that we've gotten through. That'll be like our token that we made it through the coronavirus. We made it through quarantine. We got the vinyl. Yay!
I'm gonna buy the vinyl. I told these guys that I made a promise when I interviewed Anders Osborne in New Orleans two months ago. He asked me, he was like, "When's the last time you bought something from an artist that you like?" And I was like, "Oh shit." And then on the spot, I promised him that I would start buying vinyl. This will be the first vinyl I buy. So speaking of gifts, like what do you guys think about this dinner and a movie thing? They're not letting their foot off the gas in terms of the shows. It's like 3 pretty serious shows in a row. This one being, I mean, probably like the most well-regarded show jam-wise maybe of the last 10 years, right? I mean, at least in some people's eyes. Maybe not in Jonathan's because he's about to say something.
Actually, when they announced this one, this was the first one that upon reading, what show they were doing, I was immediately excited. Like immediately, I was like, yes! Yeah. I mean, I've heard the show, I've seen the show, I watched it, but although I wasn't there like Jesse.
Right.
But I'm very excited about this choice. And of course, it's a great show. I think we all know, and everybody out there probably knows. And if you don't, what have you been doing?
Why are you watching this right now?
Yeah, do you belong here?
So Matt or Brad, what do you guys think? Like, is what Phish is doing here like on par with, above, sort of what other bands and artists are doing, in line with? Like, do you feel like they're over delivering or doing exactly what they should be doing with this sort of weekly thing?
I think it's exactly what they should be doing, knowing their audience, right? I mean, like, we're all about the live shows. We sort of like invented Couch Tour. We perfected it. I mentioned last week when we chatted how cool like the recipe thing is, to add that little fishy component of like, hey, not only are we going to say do Couch Tour, but like, here's a recipe we can all basically share in a virtual meal together. And they kind of added this week to the humor component of it too, with the tuna fish sandwich and the addressing of the absolutely stupid, ridiculous internet thing about page liking sandwiches, which
happens to be true.
I cannot believe they did that.
I love it because I love sandwiches too. So it's nice to know that Paige loves sandwiches.
The fact that he said, "Doesn't everybody like sandwiches?" Like he was like, this shit was incredible to me.
Well, and
he's like, yeah, like sandwiches.
His justification is like, he's like, I don't know, but like if somebody asked me if I like sandwiches, I probably would have said yes.
I don't remember specifically, but I probably would have said yes.
Yeah.
Jesse, tell us about the magic of the jam night. I was at I think we were all at a couple of Baker's Dozen shows, but not this one. So does it live up to the potential, and does it deserve the billing it gets?
I'm totally giving myself up. I was 13 for 13. Definitely the best night of the 13. Yeah, I mean, that was in my 25 years of seeing this band, definitely a top 5 show. For me, what was special about it was I work with a guy named Lenny Kay, who is Patti Smith's guitar player, or is Patti Smith's guitar player. Has been playing with Patti since the very beginning, when she was basically just doing poetry and he was doing acoustic accompaniment with her. And so I'm his engineer, and I've been dying to take, and he loves the Grateful Dead, and Patti loves the Grateful Dead too, and I've been dying to take him to a Phish show, and so that was the night that I was taking him. So we walked in, and he was just floored. He was like, oh my God, this is awesome, and just this positive joy. Like, he's an older guy, and all my friends were like meeting him for the first time, and he just brought like the best energy. And I'm not going to name who, but someone who works for the band wanted to meet him at set break, and I introduced him to Lenny, and he started apologizing for it. And he's like, "Isn't this what the band does? Don't they jam?" So I'll always keep that in my heart. So yeah, I'm really excited to rewatch it. I've re-listened to it, but I forgot that they stream. Did they stream every night of the Baker's Dozen? Yeah. So
yeah, some of us weren't there all 13 nights, dude.
I know.
So
add that to my wallet.
Jonathan, what do you think was so special about this night? It seems like they knew going in that they were doing the jam night, but is there anything else? Was it just like knowing that this was the night to do some weird shit while jamming?
Well, I mean, they knew it was going to be the jam night, and I think everybody knew it was probably going to be the jam night, but what that really meant was not clear until they turned a corner and sample. And then they played Lawn Boy, and they really went for it in Lawn Boy. Then we were like, oh, This
Now when
is
you
what
listen
jam
to it,
light means.
you can hear that one note and sample where it's like, okay, I see. But it's interesting you say that, because like the 30-minute cross-eyed in the second set would have been cool for any show, right? So
Of course.
these other jams really pushed the limit. Matt, is this like a thing that do you think they got ready for this throughout, or do you think it was like they looked at the next day and were like, all right, tomorrow's jam night?
No, I mean, based on what I've seen and heard of Trey kind of charting things out so much, I think there was probably some thought put into it in advance. I know that he said he, of course, was changing the game plan daily, but it seemed like there was some specific thought put into like, all right, let's pick some songs that not people know won't jam and let's flip them on their head.
And I think we'd all be remiss to not mention End of Session.
Yeah.
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 Right. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, really, the whole second set, right? The first set gets all the attention because of the sample and the Lawn Boy, but the second set is absolutely amazing. The cross-eyed Makasupa End of Session is like crazy good.
Brad, question for you. What's your favorite part of that show?
Not the Fuego. I'll tell you that much.
They played Thread, right? Was that
Yeah. So Thread was after Fuego, which I think is incredible. Right. Yeah. No, I mean, my favorite part is the Lawn Boy. I don't think that's any different than anyone else. And maybe the End of the Session. Shout out to our great friend Willis, friend of the podcast, right? Who I think called the End of Session at some point, right? Didn't he say like at some point during this run they're going to play End of Session? And I thought of him when I heard it, and I still go back and listen to this. I don't listen to all 13 of the shows. This one is one of the ones I go back to, and Phish knows it, and that's why they're playing it. That's not me. They know we all, not just me. All of us go back.
I thought you'd been like
Brad
sending
was
him your playlists and stuff, just keeping him in the loop.
I think that's, yeah, I agree. It's one of the most listened to for me. That's the top two for sure. What else are they going to do with this internet movie? Is it going to continue to be big 3.0 shows? Jesse, are they going to go into the archive?
They have to, man. I mean,
yeah, they better.
They better. Even if they played Coral Sky or something, that's like already well produced, I think that would be fine. I want some 3.0 shows. I'm doing the nerdiest Phish thing I've ever done in, I think, my Phish career with my friends. We're listening to every show from 2003 in order. I just love the
God be with you.
Thank you. I'm halfway through July. So something from 2003 would be very welcome right now.
Yeah, there's some good stuff right in there. You're gonna.
Oh God, the playing's incredible. When it's good.
Oh, summer 03 is outrageous.
Absolutely.
Matt, do you think we're gonna hear some 2.0?
I think, yeah. I mean, well, I said last week, I'd love for them to go back to like some of the single cam stuff from the 90s that we know they have in the archive that used to get put out as live Phish videos. If they're not willing to go there, 2.0 would be really cool, because that's probably an area where I guess we don't really have, other than the It DVD. Do we have video? They put Brooklyn out, yes, but there's like they have to have.
Doesn't really count though.
Like great video from all those like summer shed shows from the IMAG screens and stuff like that. Like I know I have seen videos of like Camden and Burgettstown and stuff like that. So it'd be cool to watch some of those great shows.
Just Camden for example.
Yeah, for sure.
Just for example.
Just for example.
Just Camden.
Camden.
7:30. Talk about that one again.
If they wanted to play 7:30:03.
Yeah. Well, I hope they do. I hope that there's some mid to late 1.0 stuff. It would be cool. It'd be cool to see what they have, but it was all single cam, right? Up until 2000.
Well, I guess like they have in the 90s, they had like the single camera at the soundboard where they were just like filming stuff, which I think was supposed to be mostly a reference for Kuroda to see his lights. So like they released like 12/1/95 and I think the whole island tour and some stuff from like New Year's 97 like that. But my understanding is that they have, at least going back to like the early 2000s, that and maybe earlier, they have like the video that was shown on the screens in the sheds and stuff like that. Like they have copies of that stuff. So I don't know if they're allowed to play that or put it out, but that stuff would be cool to see.
legitimate question: can they master some YouTube like cell phone videos, right? Like for not even a cell phone, but like for example, the Prague Ghost that I've seen 18,000 times on YouTube.
So
like,
that stuff's
they pull that.
So that stuff's not first of all, not cell phone video. Those are dudes took cameras, and there are good tapes in the possession of fans, but I don't think the band has that material. So there's that problem. But there is, I just, thank you for bringing up 12-195, Matt. That shit rolls your face. They should just put that together and put it out. That would be fine, or any of those things. But yeah, I think the shed footage is also
It's a live Phish release, though, right? I don't want a live Phish release. I want, some.
I do. I'll take it. It'd be fine.
No, it's not a time to get picky, Brad. It's a fucking pandemic.
Yeah.
Take what you can get, dude. All right, we're gonna tune in tomorrow. Jesse, any closing thoughts on the dinner to movie stuff or other stuff you hope to see?
Yeah, I want a 1.0 video, and it's great that they're doing it. I definitely want to plug that Tedeschi trucks. We're also on Thursdays as well. We don't have the wherewithal to provide recipes with the screening. I'm actually not sure what we're doing this Thursday. Last week we did an LA show that I mix, and then in a couple weeks I'll just blow it up here. We're gonna put up the last film I directed for them, which was A Night in Oakland from 2017, September 9th, 2016, and we're putting a bunch of extra stuff in it. So we're working on that right now. So Tedeschi Trucks Thursday nights. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey, we have some questions from the chat. Can we take a minute to address these questions, like speed round style?
Yeah.
Illinois Enema Bandit asked, is when Phish returns after the coronavirus, is it 4.0?
No.
Or is Sigma Oasis and Trey's Quarantine album part of 4.0?
No.
That
Jay says no. Matt?
Answer.
Here's the thing about the different eras. This is pretty clear in my mind. If the band decides to take a break or breaks up, then that's what signifies the jump. It's not like they can't play concerts for 4 months because of a pandemic and now it's a different era. That's not fair. They're not in a different era, although maybe we're all in a different era.
But
now I'm questioning.
Trey doesn't demark 2.0 after the hiatus. He says 2.0 started before the hiatus.
Trey doesn't have an award-winning Phish podcast.
Neither do you.
Trey can come on this podcast and defend him.
Matt, do you think it's 4.0?
No. I hate it when people start to get into that. Oh, well, actually 1.0 ended in 93 and all. No, it's no.
Jesse.
Tom says it's 4.0, RJ.
Tom does?
Also doesn't have an award. Wait, no, hold on.
Illinois Enema Bandit says they are on a break. But I have one more question, or I don't know if this is a question. Bob Aganush notes that Phish has a cover art issue. He says the decent ones are Fuego, Slip, Stitch and Pass, and Rift. The bad ones are Billy Breeds and Big Boat. Where does this one fall?
What about Lawn Boy?
I love that one. I will fight you.
Nectar.
Come on.
I think it's fair to have opinions about the other records, but also where does this one fall?
I think that's an interesting question.
I feel like this one's like a yearbook photo.
Phish 2019.
Awesome.
Matt, what do you think about that?
See you after the summer.
I already told you no, it's not 4.0.
Am I allowed to screen share on this?
Yeah.
Sure.
Talk for a minute. I'll get this up in 30 seconds.
No, Matt, what's your thought on the cover art issue?
Oh, on the cover art? Oh, I think it's a beautiful picture. And I think it's going to look great
Snowy
on an easel next to my turntable.
There you go.
I mean, I don't know if it gets as bad as Billy Breeze, right? But that's a whole. But
that one's hilarious, though.
Hold on, let me. I think I could screen share this now. I'll pop this up. I was so bored for 15 minutes, and me and my friends, we like to use LightX Express to cut up heads and stuff like that. So actually, coming through. 1 second. I made a meme. Basically. Let me see if I can just show. Let me see.
I made a meme.
Yeah, that's the Joe Exotic people and Woody.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah.
Perfect, man.
Send that to us, and we'll tweet it out for the.
Fauci on there, you know, like who are like the figures of coronavirus?
Yeah.
We seriously talk. This album's going to be part of coronavirus. Those people are going to be. So there you go. You got it, man. You got it.
You got it.
For sure.
Well, now I need to go watch this Tiger King thing right now.
Oh my God, yeah, you do.
I'm gonna do it.
You
All
know,
right, Jesse, thank you so much for joining us on this crazy thing,
guys, and hopefully I'll see you guys at the Uncle Jesse's quarantine on Saturday.
We'll be there. We'll be there, man. Thank you for all you do, and thanks for your help with this. And Matt,
thanks so much.
Jonathan, Brad, see you guys on the internet.
Yep, we'll have another new episode out next week after maybe another one of these live streams.
Wow.
Do we do a podcast?
Yeah, we should probably do that.
Sure, we probably should.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Appreciate it.